Hi everyone, my name is Holly Jackson and I'm one of the librarians at North Hall Library, and I'm excited to get to talk with you for another research tips video, this time on Googling like a pro. So before we dive too deep into the Google world, I want to clarify that there's two things we're going to talk about today with Google. The first is the general Google search that pops up whenever you go to Google. And the second is Google Scholar, which searches scholarly literature that's available on the internet versus the whole internet. So let's dive into Google a little bit deeper. I'm sure the screen looks familiar. I don't know about you guys, but I use Google probably at least 20 times a day. It's something that is very common for me. Even though I work in the library and use our databases a lot, I still Google, and there's nothing wrong with that. When we use Google, think of it like a ocean of information. And this is an image I like to show my students because it really gives a good grasp of what you can get when you use Google or DuckDuckGo or Bing or Safari or any of these other internet browsers. So when you're on the internet, you really only have access to a small portion of what exists. And so you can see here, Google and Bing are like ships on top of the ocean, and they're casting nets and catching information that way. And you can get some decent things that are popping up in there, but it's not everything. To access things like our databases and academic journals and the other resources that your professors are going to want you to use, you need to have some special gear like our friend Scuba Steve here. But unlike Scuba Steve, you don't need, a mask, and well, you do need a mask now, but you don't need like a underwater mask or any kind of outfit like that. All you need is your Mansfield email address and your password, and that gives you access to these things. Google and any of these other internet search engines, they don't have paid access. They don't give you logins to be able to access anything behind a paywall or behind a login screen. So there's some limitations there. You might be curious, well, just how much of the internet does Google actually have access to? And there are different reports on this, but it's an estimated 4%. I haven't seen anything higher than 20 that's estimated that Google has access to. And that's because it's the surface web, like this picture of an iceberg shows you. So anything on the surface web is freely available. It's not behind a login screen, and you don't have to necessarily pay to get that, or at least have access to the screen that shows you what it is. The deep web is where you're going to find things like databases, your medical records, your banking information, any kind of legal documents, certain reports, anything that has a subscription. Those are going to be behind logins. They're going to be in the deeper web. And then the dark web is where we find more of our illegal things that we're not going to worry about. But you can see it's only the very tip of the iceberg that we have access to when we're using Google. So when you're using Google, there's a few different types of sites that are going to be popping up that you can use. These are different domain types. So the first is .com, and these are the most common things that you're going to find. They were originally for-profit businesses, but now they're really common. Anyone can have a .com. Nonprofits, schools, individuals, everybody uses .coms. .orgs as well. It was originally for nonprofit organizations that don't fit under the .edu, .gov, or .mil umbrella, but anybody can get a .org now. So if you thought that .orgs were something that was limited, they're not anymore. So you want to be careful with those. Same with .net, originally for network infrastructures, now they're unrestricted. .edu is for education, mostly colleges and universities. .gov is for U.S. government offices, and .mil is for U.S. military offices. So if you see any of those, that's what those mean. Did you know that Google has an advanced search feature? Super cool. Much like our databases, there is a way for you to add more specific information than just typing into that basic Google search bar. You would just go to google.com/advanced_search. And what you'll get is a screen that looks a lot like this. actually looks exactly like this because this is a screenshot of what the advanced search looks like. So you can start off by saying that you want all of these words, which is what the default search is going to be looking for. You can look for an exact word or phrase. And it's giving you tips and tricks for this, right? So if you're looking for the words, type important words. These are what we call keywords in all of the library instruction. When we tell you that you should pick keywords to search, this is what we mean. Pick 3 to 5 words that are relevant to your topic and try searching them. Don't type them as a question, don't type them as a sentence, just type those 3 to 5 words. And if you wanted the exact word or phrase, put it in quotation marks. These are tricks that you can also use in the library's databases. Any of these words, we would put an or between them, and we'll talk about or, and not, which are called Boolean operators in a few minutes. None of these words in Google, if you wanted to exclude a word, you would use a minus sign in front of it. If you wanted numbers, and then you can narrow by language, you can narrow to region. So if you wanted something in the United States, you wanted to rule out anything that was published in, say, Australia or England or China when it was last updated. The site or domain is huge. That is where you can put iwant.gov. So if you're looking for government information related to something, come on here, put in your keywords, put .gov in the site or domain, and you're only going to find things that are from government web pages. And you can edit this and you can go back to it and find what you need. So I highlighted just to make it a little bit clearer to see some of these tips and tricks. So try using only important keywords. I recommend 3 to 5 of them is what I found is the sweet spot for searching. It's not too little, it's not too much. Use quotation marks if you're looking for exact phrases. Try the or, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then if you want to exclude things, if you're finding things that aren't relevant, make sure you use that minus sign. So let's talk about that or feature now. So and, or, and not are what we call Boolean operators when you're searching on the internet. And is automatically assumed. When you type any words in Google, when you type them in the library's databases, you don't even have to write the word and anymore. It's just assumed. So if I wrote peanut butter jelly, they would assume peanut and butter and jelly, unless I put peanut butter in quotation marks. So that is automatically assumed. You don't have to worry about writing and. Or makes it so that it's broadening your search. It's searching for more. So if I search for peanut butter or jelly, instead of finding things that are in the middle between them, I'm finding the things that are in the middle, but also things that are just peanut butter and things that are just jelly. And if you wanted not peanut butter, not jelly, that is where you would use the minus sign in Google. But if you were using the library's databases, you would want to write out the word not. If you're looking for images, maybe you were trying to figure out where things are coming from, you found something somebody posted or an image pops up on a website and you wanted to know where it came from originally, you could try searching in TinEye, which is a reverse image search, which is very helpful. So you can see on this example, I searched for a picture of a library that I think is really pretty. And so I put the picture in and it came back with 215 results. And it says it has searched over 42 billion pictures, which is crazy to me. But you can see that it's available as a stock image. It showed up on this exploredplanet.com and several other websites, kind of the listicle type thing where it's giving recommendations for prettiest libraries probably. So I can find more information about this picture and where all it has come or showed up. So let's talk about Google Scholar a little bit. When you're searching on Google, it's searching for the whole internet. So you might get some things popping up that relate to your research topics, but maybe not. If you wanted to look more at the freely available scholarly literature, you would want to go to scholar.google.com, and this is going to limit that. And you can see there's options for articles and case law on here. But before you get too far in your search, I want to recommend that you go into your settings and edit something small that will make a big difference for you. So if we go into Google Scholar and we go up to the 3 little bars, sometimes people call them the little stack of pancakes up in the top left corner, at the bottom you'll see settings. Click on that. And then it will take you to a page, and on the left-hand side, you can click library links, and then it will take you to this page. Type in Mansfield University, and then click that box. What this means is that anything that is indexed that Google will be able to pull the name from, if we have it in our library's database, you'll be able to get a link that will show up and you can pull it from here. So you can get the full text through the library, which is really helpful because not all of these article names that you're going to have come up in Google Scholar, you have full text access to through Google Scholar. But if we have it, you will have that access. It doesn't search all of our databases. It only searches some of our bigger ones, but there's at least a chance that you would be able to find it that way. So you add in Mansfield. If there are any other local public libraries, you can check and see if they're on there, and then you can see where you can get access to these sources from. And this search is an example, so I just typed in college student research, and you'll see these articles right here up at the top have full text to MU showing up on the right hand side. So these are ones that I can get full text just for setting up that library link in my settings. And so I can take a look at these, and much like our library's databases, you have the title and the authors, the year it was published, you've got an abstract, a little summary right there. One of the things I really like to use Google Scholar for, because it's easy, is to look at the cited by option that's right underneath it. And so what this is this is an easy way to mine the bibliographies, mine who's using this. So if you know that this top article, an internet-based survey method for college student drinking research is the article that you want, you've looked through it, you think it's a great resource, you want to see who else is using this and maybe see where the research has gone since this article, click on that cited by 178. And then this is the page that you'll get. These are articles and other sources that use that previous article. So think of it as almost like a parent and child article. So there's the original article full of information, and then all the children and grandchildren and family tree of research that has used that article or that book, and you can see where things have gone. So this is a nice way for me to kind of track where the research has gone, find other resources that are going to be useful for my research. So this is a really helpful tool that's easily available on Google Scholar. And that way you don't have to just keep reading all this research on the topic and looking through the works cited and try and see if you can make those connections. They're pretty easily made through this. So that's just a brief intro of Google and what you can find on Google and Google Scholar. If you have questions, definitely let us know. I will again reiterate, I'm never going to tell you not to use Google as a librarian. I think Google is an amazing tool. I think there are limitations. Like I said, anybody can create a lot of these different types of websites. So some of the research that's out there isn't necessarily actually research. It's just somebody putting their opinion out there. So you want to evaluate your sources at any time when they're coming from the internet or even from our databases. But otherwise, you know, it's a great tool. Definitely use it. If you have questions, ask a librarian. Go to lib.mansfield.edu. You can chat with us, email us, call us, or even visit us in person. We hope you have a great rest of the day.